Hello, salam alaikum. Welcome to CEO Leadership Live Middle East. Today is my pleasure to have with us Sareen Oli Mohammed, Tech woman, ex-Global Chief Information and Digital Officer, and currently board member of a tech company. Hello, Sareen. Salam alaikum.
Hi, Andrea. Walaikum salam. How are you doing?
All good. Thank you so much for being with us today. I didn't know how to introduce you because your curriculum and everything you have been doing supporting women in tech, it is amazing. We just celebrate Women's Day. So I think it is really important to have more women on CEO Leadership Live to spread the message. So, Sarin, what is it like to be a woman in tech?
Hey, Andrea, thanks so much for having me. Firstly, it is such a privilege and a real treat, especially with Women's Day around the corner. Um, so, what is it like being a woman in tech? It's a rare privilege, with the emphasis on the word rare and an emphasis on the word privilege. And I think in some regions like ours, even more so because we're also a minority in terms of the community. But I'm really happy. I'm also encouraged. I'm optimistic because we've made and are continuing to make a lot of headway. Um, but also, it doesn't change the fact that it's still a male-dominated space.
Mm.
And there is still a lack of sufficient like representation, um, actually across three areas, right? Women in tech in general, at the C-suite, at board level, and tech on boards, right? And I see this across multinationals as well, where even though multinationals are leading, but I was the only female Asian on the leadership team in my previous role in a multinational. But having said that, I think it's a wonderful time to be a woman in this field, and an exciting one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do agree. I've been having more conversations regarding women in tech, and things have changed, especially in the Middle East and in the UAE. I know the government is making a lot of efforts, but as you say, the difference between men and it's still male dominated. So why do you think it is important for to have more women joining the tech industry?
I think because having women in the C-suite, companies who have that are more profitable, and superior innovation is achieved with, the diverse team with fresh perspectives, and this can lead to having a competitive advantage. For instance, with AI, to make sure results are not biased and need a balanced view. That's just one example. Um, I think there was a study that BCG did with the University of Munich, I think. And that study tried to understand the relationship between sort of diversity and management. And that result showed that increasing the diversity on leadership teams leads to more innovation, improved financial performance across both developing and developed economies across the board, right? So it showed that, this study showed that, companies with great gender diversity
Mm.
specifically,
And
where,
diversity in general.
yes, but specifically gender for this one. So where it was 8 out of 20 managers who were female, generated 35% of their revenue from innovative products and services, right, in the last 3 years. So I think it's a no-brainer having diversity, and having women in the industry and in meaningful leadership positions, make companies more profitable.
Absolutely. And Sarin, how the industry have changed since you joined?
Yeah, so I joined in oil and gas,
Oh,
in technology in 2003, right? So 20 years ago. And at the time, there were not many women leaders, especially in technology. So oil and gas is already mentioned, tech is already. Um, but that has evolved, and I've had the privilege of working with many outstanding and inspirational women leaders, and we see that in the world as well within tech. Sheryl Sandberg, etc., leading cutting edge tech companies. And I think that's important because, outstanding women, they function as really important inspirational examples of success. They illustrate what is possible. They demonstrate that it is possible to overcome barriers, and it is very much attainable. So I think that is a really important um, to keep in mind. So the industry, I think, has come a long way from where it was, and I'm grateful for that. Having said that, there's still a long way for us to go, because at the moment, I think only 1 in 4 women are represented at C-suite, and even less so in boards. And according to Women in Tech, I think it'll take about 133 years to close the economic gender gap, which is ironic because tech has played such a pivotal role to bring that parity, right? It allowed people to upskill. It allows us to have access to wide opportunities through remote work. But ironically, within tech, there's still gender bias in our field, and it's led to an underrepresentation of women. But organizations can and must help bridge this gender divide. So we need to work collaboratively across, governments, across organizations.
Do you think maybe, in your opinion, some women are afraid to join the tech industry because it's still a male dominated? Because we are always talking about breaking the bias, having a diversified team, encourage women to join the tech industry, being equal. But on the other side, for example, if you go to a med school, is female dominated. So I don't know if this is something that we have inside us, because if you go to nursery school, med school, as I was saying, it's male dominated. Maybe it's 60% of women, 40% of men. I don't know. So why we still don't achieve 50-50 in tech? Like, how we can encourage women to work in tech? Because I know, I mean, I can say that the world has changed in the past. I mean, in the past, in every country, women were told you need to have kids, you need to take care of your husband. Like, it is about a generation thing. Even like my grandmother was raised that way, but now we can go to the university, we can study whatever we want. These have changed all over the world. So why we didn't achieve still gender equality in tech, for example? This is what
Mm,
I've always been asking myself.
that's a great question, Andrea, and thanks for asking that. From my experience, it depends on which layer of the organization that we're talking about. So I observed at entry level, there is parity. So there is a good pool of men and women entering tech. And then as you go up the ladder, it gets less and less. Um, uh, so I think to move up the ladder, there's a few things that need to happen. The first is around providing equal opportunity for development. So I don't necessarily believe that positive discrimination during hiring is the way to go because it's still discrimination. I don't think it sends the right message. We should hire the best person for the job, the
Yeah,
best human
absolutely.
for the job,
Absolutely.
regardless of gender. However, um, uh, by providing equal investment in development, equal opportunities, in helping people get ready for the role. I think that's where we're going to make the most difference. Um, the second is about having a balanced representation on the hiring team. Because if you have a male-dominated hiring team, if you have a certain culturally dominated hiring team, you're going to get bias in that. So balanced representation to remove bias. And the third, this is what I practiced in my previous role, was where we do not close recruitment until we get sufficient CVs from women, and we interview them as well. So that's along the road to the top. I mean, coming back to your point around getting more women in STEM fields, um, I think it's also about managing the perception of these fields. There's a bias that, men are better at math or engineering, etc. I think with the internet, it's helped. Obviously, with women leaders, visible tech, female leaders in tech, that helps as well. Um, I mean, it's interesting, right, Andrea? So the first, the world's first programmer was a woman.
Oh, okay.
Lovelace. Yeah, she was a woman, but how many of us know her, right? How many of
I
us know
didn't know,
Elon
for
Musk?
example.
Exactly, exactly. We know Alan Turing, but the world's first programmer is Ada Lovelace. I think it's about bringing to light and educating and shining a light on these amazing women as well. Um,
Sorry, I always ask two questions when I do these Women in Tech episodes. Two questions, like, what would you say to your younger version if you would be back in when you started 2003? And which women have most inspired you to become a leader today?
yeah, that's a great question. I think looking back, I would say be bold, take more risks. Um, it's never too late as well to do something that we shouldn't have. Life has a way of making us lose our dreams and become more sensible. But I think have more self belief, especially women. I think that inner voice can be very harsh, can be very critical, and we hold ourselves back. So in some ways, sometimes I've observed that um, the thing that holds us back the most is our own inner voice. And as women, I think if we can uh, fix that inner voice, the opportunities and the potential is limitless. I remember a friend of mine telling me that, wow, if that inner voice was an actual human and an actual friend, that's like a horrible friend. You're not ever going to be friends with this person. So as women, I think we're very we're sometimes very harsh on ourselves, very critical, and we undersell ourselves sometimes as well. It's classic, right? So two people who might be qualified for the job, the woman is probably overqualified, and potentially the man is not. The man got more confidence, sells himself more, and the woman shows up and says, "Here's all the stuff that I don't know," right? So I think it's about having more self-confidence, more self-belief, um, and really don't take no for an answer.
Never. And last but not least, which women have most inspired you to become the tech leader you are today?
So I think it's a collection of women, and women who continue to break barriers. Ada Lovelace was an example. And in our field, there's been remarkable women. So, for instance, Admiral Grace Hopper led to the development of cobalt. Why do we not know about this? She recorded like the world's first ever real bug. Um, you know, Adele Goldberg was the inspiration of graphical user interface. She created this programming language, which she showed to Steve Jobs, and that led to the GUI and of the iPhone as we know it now. So for me, it's really about a collection of women and regular women as well. So mothers, sisters, friends, who show up every day, who stay
Grandmothers.
true, right? Who ask for forgiveness rather than permission, and who refuse to accept status quo. That's what inspires me.
That is true. Wow, sorry. Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. Thank you for joining CIO Leadership Live, for empowering women in tech. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Andrea. A real treat.